Welcome to Ordinary Visionaries.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here. You've been on my list for a long time, Gary. You've done some of my programs. There's so many people that have tuned into me over the years, but I don't know a lot about them. So I'm looking forward to this. So tell me, how are you an ordinary visionary?
Well, Robert, it's good to be back in your space. First of all, we do go back a ways when you were first starting up with your action plans and the friendships that I made during those days. Actually, I'm so fortunate they still kind of stick with me somehow, at least a few of them anyway.
Yeah.
So, this question of being an ordinary visionary is an exciting one to answer. I would say, most of all, I'm very fortunate in that I've had the freedom to explore my visions. And that's really one of the main things about being a visionary, because we can all have dreams, but if we really don't have the freedom and the space to go out and explore and get inspired and test and
Yes.
see if we're going to succeed or flop, vision doesn't really do us a whole lot of good. So that's kind of what I was thinking about when I first heard this title of Extraordinary Visionaries.
Yes. Ordinary, not extraordinary.
There you go. Well, extraordinary in my mind because there aren't a whole lot of people that would really want to walk this path with me right now.
Yeah.
Not
Well,
knowing where it's going to end up, right?
yeah, it's the self-employment path. And well, tell us a little bit about your journey.
Well, I got out of college many years ago with a degree in broadcast journalism, and it was the love of my life to be able to pursue working with a camera, a typewriter, and most lately a video camera. Those are the tools of my trade, and I found that I had some talent at doing things with those tools. And so I decided I wanted to explore and expand my skills and at the same time be an entrepreneur. That is, to not clock in or go out and get a regular job like everybody else. The other part of that was that I lived at Lake Tahoe in a resort community. So there weren't a lot of really high paying journalism jobs, back in the 80s.
No.
Not too many, right? So I had to kind of make my way on my own, and I found that I could go into nearby Reno, Nevada, and start working with ad agencies and mining companies, and that find clients that would appreciate the services that I had to offer. So I worked for a variety of different outfits, and each step of the way, I got to do my thing. I got to make friendships. I got to be productive and produce the things that they wanted, the products that they wanted.
What
And
kind
at
of
that,
what kind of projects did you do?
well, I was at the kind of like the bleeding edge, if you will, of technology in those days. We were just transitioning out of paste up and camera and dark rooms into the digital age. And I was one of the first ones. Matter of fact, I had a PC clone that I put into a small travel trailer, and it had a color monitor on it and a tablet. And I would go around and actually park in the back of the ad agencies and haul my art director friends out and show them that we could generate 3D art on the computer screen. Well, in those days, that's about as far as it could go. So the screen was it, which wasn't really too satisfactory for these guys that were used to doing, like magazine work, for example, magazine ads, right? Quality
Yeah.
stuff. So I decided, well, what I really need is a film recorder. And a film recorder actually lets you shoot these images that I created onto 35 millimeter film. And so I ended up producing hundreds and hundreds, maybe even 1,000 slides. And I was working for like the mining industry where geologists would go out and do surveys in the field and come back and have to convince the board of directors that, there was gold in them our hills, right?
Really?
And it was quite an accomplishment because before a lot of their particular stuff was transitioning from placemats and cocktail napkins, onto line drawings, and so to have somebody that they could hand those scraps of paper off to and have them converted into color slides to show in the boardroom was really appreciated. In the ad agencies, a lot of their proposals they didn't really have PowerPoint back then, so we were doing slideshows, and we would do typesetting and layouts and graphs and charts, all that good stuff. So I stuck with that. Also worked some in display transparencies, which is kind of like the older version of digital signage, where things were done on film and then mounted onto light boxes in airports and hotels and casinos,
Oh
which
yeah.
is what was happening here. So I
Yeah.
was finding these opportunities to produce products that the agencies and the business clients appreciated. Then in 1993, a friend of mine and I went to a virtual reality conference. Um, I think it was in Las Vegas, if I'm not mistaken. And we saw a technology that just so totally intrigued me that I was inspired right then and there to say to myself and anyone who asked, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life.
And
And
what
that
was that?
was that was interactive avatars. And an interactive avatar is basically it's a 3D cartoon character that's built in a high-end program like Autodesk 3D Max or Studio in those days or whatever. And then it's manipulated so that it can turn and rotate, has lighting, put it on top of backgrounds. But the cool part about it is that when we set it up with this software so that when I talked, the character's mouth moved and talked simultaneously.
That's fun.
Yeah, yeah.
So that
So
was actually live. You've got this thing in the computer. You're talking to the microphone, and it looks like it's talking.
yeah, yeah. It's if you roll back the calendar, I did my first character in 1993, and it was a replica of Virtual Mark Twain. I called it. And in those days, the computer that we had to use was this massive Sun Challenger by Silicon Graphics. And it came on a pallet. So the only way you could move it around was to come in with a forklift and lift this computer up to take it to a trade show, load it in the back of a semi. And
Seriously. So
yeah,
now we have computers that are this big that have that as much power as that, right?
oh, I mean, this big, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh man.
yeah.
So
So
so so how is that used commercially?
well, the main thing that I found was companies, ad agencies, and companies liked having me perform with these avatars at trade shows and company meetings. So, like for example, at a trade show, you might be walking down the aisle and you see a cartoon character on a screen off to the side in front of a booth, and as you get closer and closer, it goes, "Hey, you, buddy, the guy with the blue shirt." And you go, me? How did the character would go, yeah, you. Hey, how you doing? I understand you're looking for widgets here today. What brings you? Where do you come in from? Or whatever like that. And as it turns out, I'm personally hidden in a closet in the back of the booth, and I've set up a two-way closed circuit video so that I can see and hear you. And my avatar is up on that big screen TV
Wow.
interacting, and we would just get crowds of people all around our booths for our clients, right? And so that was one application, super successful. We won some best of shows with some of our clients, for best booth in the trade show in all different industries, everything from automotive to healthcare to training, all that.
So you
Um,
were on the road all the time going to these trade shows and doing this, right?
well, see, that's what I mean about freedom, right?
Yeah.
If I didn't have the freedom, I couldn't pursue these opportunities. And, it got to be from about, say about 98, 99 up until 2010, 2015, where I was able to travel the world with my gear. And my gear evolved. We went to smaller computers, eventually ended up on laptops, and
Wow.
with my stuff in a carry on. There was a long stretch of about 8 or 9 years where I had massive road boxes with CRT monitors and rack mounted computers inside. I actually went to South America with 165 pounds of gear in these road boxes over a dozen times. I had a client down there that just loved this. He would do product, big parties, huge parties, and do product launches. and these avatars would be up on the screen. One night I was creating characters all the while too, right? So the new characters were coming out all the time that I would work with my 3D artist, Tom Knight, to build. So at one of these shows down in Bogota, Colombia, we actually had 5 characters appear in one night on different stages in this big party room, big banquet hall.
Wow.
And I was controlling all of them except for the female character, where we had a woman who actually wore the headgear and had the dots on her face so that when she could perform the female character.
Oh, so it's
It
sort of
was a,
like they did with what was it, Lord of the Rings and Gollum, where
yeah,
you have
yeah.
this mask and you have these dots, and then the
Well, it was actually a helmet with a infrared camera out here, and that was running on a separate computer, and so that saw the dots moving and sent the
sure.
motion information over to the other computer that was doing the rendering of the 3D art in real time.
Wow.
So yeah, yeah. And then in about 2008, I had the opportunity to evolve that onto laptops. And with the laptops, we got rid of the helmet and the face tracking, and we were able to have software that actually made the character's mouth move based on the voice, the audio picked up by a microphone that would send, these phonemes or word sounds into the computer, and the computer would do it. Like if I went ooh, see how my mouth moves there? So that was
Yeah.
translated to a ooh shape
Wow.
on the avatar, and that's kind of what I've been using since then. So yeah, but I mean, I went to China, I went to South America. I must have hit every single large city and big convention hall in the States, more than a dozen, I mean, frequently. Vegas is only 500 miles from me, so I would drive down there with my gear, work for
Right.
3 days, and come back. And
Right.
so
Bet you got paid well for that.
one of my most successful projects was actually was contacted by Ogilvy in New York City, a big ad agency, and their client was AstraZeneca. And so we developed 2 custom characters for AstraZeneca, and did us over about 18 months. We did 8 trade shows, including one weekend where I had a couple of my actors took one system to Orlando and I took another system to DC, and we did 2 trade shows in one weekend, and that pulled in about 30 grand.
Wow.
So that was my peak. That was my zenith, you might say.
So did you
and
did you not have did you have any competition, or no one else had figured out how to turn this into a business?
Well, I had a little competition, um, but there were I found like a niche at a certain level where people were willing to pay the 5 grand a day for my work,
Yeah.
and so that was fairly steady. And so what I really learned out of the whole thing is that, to be able to stay working, it's really important for an entrepreneur to be innovative. You
Yeah.
just can't just take a technology and just stop, grab it, hold of it, and then just stay there. You have to keep moving. So as I was attempting to keep my business viable and relevant, and in the eyes of my customers, right,
Right.
um, I tackled some other things, and one of them was the company that had developed my source code for the software that was running on the laptop decided they wanted to sell it. And I had a library of like 2 dozen characters. So how could I say no? So I raised the money, bought the source code, and then I was my own customer support. I had to get in there. So I found a code engineer, and he and I went after it, and we improved it, improved it, improved it, and really came up with a super great product. It was like zero glitches, never failed in performance, handled our work with characters, and I was real successful with that up until about 2018. And
Then what
then,
happened?
well, my last character that I created on that system was Virtual Yogi Berra
Yeah.
in 2018. And I contacted the family,
Yeah.
And I got a contract with the family saying, I'll give you 30% of whatever I can earn off of Yogi. We did a debut at the Baseball Winter Show in Vegas in 2018, and we never had one decent conversation with anybody who wanted to book us. And I can't tell
Really?
you exactly what it was. I don't know. Um, but it appears that the technology was just not at a level. My technology was just not good enough at a level of quality that people were starting to look for in 2018, 5 or 6 years ago now.
Yeah.
And they were moving on to other stuff. And then there was this attitude in the trade show industry that was moving away from gimmicks and more toward quote authentic experiences that were just really direct, like salesperson to guy walking down the aisle, nothing in between. No attraction in the booth. Kind of boring, not much fun, but that's how it ended up. So I finished off my run with the AstraZeneca contracts, made a lot of money off of them, and then after that the virtual yogi just fell on its nose. And I still do virtual yogi, and I'm still trying to find a booking for it, but no go. So I had to come up with a new invention in just prior to the pandemic in 2019.
So how did you survive the couple pandemic years?
Well, like everybody else, it was hard, but I'm pretty much used to working from home and without contact with my customers directly. So I worked on that. I tried to market, improve my marketing skills, and upgrade, that kind of thing, the SEO and the social media. Struggled with all of that. It's so hard for an entrepreneur to do that on their own. And I just wasn't
It's
in the
hard to
fight.
break through because there's 10 gazillion other people, you know. It
Oh,
was
yeah.
easier in the early days.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
yeah,
didn't you
yeah.
find that too? Just to do a good job of SEO, it takes like maybe two full-time people, in my opinion.
Well, I was lucky early on. I before it really hit, and that got me a lot of subscribers. But after X number of years, I can't remember how long it was, I couldn't I gave up.
Yeah,
But I had 50,000 subscribers by then. And so I
yeah,
worked on the momentum of the 50,000 subscribers. I didn't do social media. I just emailed people.
yeah,
And yeah,
yeah.
so that's what worked for me.
And all of us entrepreneurs, we have different pitches, different offers, different services that we provide. There's no way to say that providing marketing consultation is the same as going out and being an entertainer and getting gigs to attract people to a trade show booth. It's just two totally different buyers and mindsets, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
So I found it to be really challenging to do that. So one of the things that I grabbed a hold of right around that time is I thought, well, these avatars, there's something special about them. And I had read back in the 90s when I was working on starting this out that autistic kids were expected to, by researchers at MIT, these researchers at MIT said that, you know, interactive avatars communicating with autistic kids is a good thing. People should try more of that. And I'm like, okay, well, hey, I can do that. So that's a lot of what I did during the pandemic. I started another company called Invertua, and I set it up. I found a piece of software that let me do telehealth. And keep track of my clients and all that. And real nice, inexpensive piece of software online. And so I've got a few moms and their kids, and I would actually use one of my avatars or a couple of different avatars, depending on what was happening with these kids, get to know them. And then we would do like adventures, or we would do kind of like similar to speech therapy, or
Did
uh,
they work
social skills.
on their laptop?
Well, actually, on my end, it took 2 or 3 computers going simultaneously, but on their end, it was a Zoom, similar to a Zoom call.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had my animation system in front of me. I had my session system over here. In some cases, I had another computer that was doing voice synthesis. And I
Wow.
would build these slide decks and work with these kids, playing games, and all this, and
But you
really
had to
basic.
do that live, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. It had to be solid, coming through
Wow.
live in real time with these kids, and I had to be really tuned in, in a call like this. It's like, okay, well, it doesn't really matter if I look off to the side or down like this. It kind of ruins your experience. But with the avatar, I always had to control the avatar so it's looking at the right place or straight ahead into the virtual camera, so to speak. So, yeah, it was. But I loved doing it because the time would just fly by with these kids, and the parents would go, "Oh, yeah, let's do it next week." So, but I never really was able to get too many clients. I only got a few clients, and but I got a client in Australia, for example, and I got a client from South Africa, and I got a few clients from the USA. And again, then I ran into these marketing headaches of
Yes.
getting
Well,
customers and finding
that
them and
when you're
getting word
dealing
out
with
about it.
individual parents, which is a whole different deal. With the rise of AI, which I'm sure you're totally tuned into, um, with ChatGTP, you can now talk to it, and it will talk back in a normal voice. And I wouldn't be surprised if you could hook that into your characters and have them talking without you even being. So I don't know. You've probably thought of something like this already, right?
Well, actually, Robert, I'm working with a colleague over in Berlin, Germany, a guy by the name of David Bennett. He owns a studio called Mimic Productions over there. And
Yeah.
Bennett was one of the lead facial animators on Avatar, the original Avatar film.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Yeah. So he's got great credentials as far as facial animation is concerned. And Bennett is working on perfecting human looking avatars that use generative AI to do exactly what you described, where you the person on the other side can communicate directly with the avatar, and we're seeing that technology move forward very slowly. It's been around for a while, actually, but there are a couple of technical hurdles to it um, that are still preventing it from really being, a powerful experience. But it'll get there.
Yeah.
I've seen it progress, and it'll get there. And so I have the good fortune of actually working with Bennett, and we're looking for high-end customer service companies here in the U.S. Companies that provide the big Fortune 500s with customer service, and
Yeah.
saying, hey, we can come in and we can give you an interactive avatar on a screen to do customer service, what they now call CX.
That would be that would be amazing, but it would also possibly be really annoying if it wasn't good.
Right,
Because,
right.
I do chat with customer service, but it's AI chat, and sometimes it just feels like you're talking to a computer, not a human. Not so. We got a ways to go on that.
Well, what's
But
interesting
yeah,
is that a lot of the roots that make these experiences more human-like actually come from my early days of understanding what we call digital puppeteering. And digital puppeteering, for
hmm.
example, one of the techniques that really makes this experience work is if you can kind of see the avatar appearing to breathe a little bit. or to pause or
It
to,
looks lifelike.
yeah, because
Well,
otherwise it's wooden and it's stiff
yeah,
and it's funky, you know? So,
yeah. Well, just looking at
and
your face now, you can see there's a lot of micro movements and with the facial muscles, with the eyes, with the
sure.
eyebrows, with the head. So, but you can trust that there's a gazillion people working hard on this kind of stuff. I mean, you were really a pioneer in this kind of thing, but now the whole AI thing that it's like, let's get some money. How about $20 billion tomorrow? And it's like people are throwing the money at it, right? Wouldn't that have
Yeah,
been
and I
nice
don't
back
know if I
then?
could. Yeah, and even today, you know, because I still own the code on my for my technology, and my technology is very streamlined compared to a lot of these that require special graphics cards and heavy, you know, a lot more processing power. But my code engineer and I have been watching and looking now for about 5 years, and we can't seem to figure out a way to rewrite our code for less than about 125K.
Right. And let's see, retirement money or a gamble, and God knows where, right?
Well, you know, this is one of the
Excuse me.
lessons. So today I'm sitting here with you, and we were talking about some of the lessons that get learned along the way. Um, so there, one of the lessons that comes up at this point for me is um, I, it's called escalating the commitment. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So this is a thing that entrepreneurs have to do. They have to learn how to do this well. So it's tempting to go out and borrow, go in debt, escalate the commitment, find the code engineers, buy the marketing software, the latest deal, go out, extend yourself on your credit cards. Every time you do that, you're basically escalating the commitment. How much of that can your wallet take?
Yeah, and it's
You know,
risky. It's risky. And, unless you have investors and they're willing to take the risk, you know, what is
well,
it?
you're still
Bet.
making a personal commitment to your investors.
Oh, sure you are.
Yeah.
But, bet the farm or bet the house. If I said to my wife, I have a great idea, but we got to have to mortgage the house, so we're going to put it into God knows what. Well, so I never had that. It's an interesting conversation because there are people that have these entrepreneurial dreams, and, most of them we forget don't succeed. The majority don't succeed. We hear about the Elon Musks and the Amazons and, they're ultra billionaires. But I realized early on, ultra billionaires aren't any happier than I am.
Well, you know, it takes all kinds, you know. I mean, that's the
Right.
whole thing. Billionaires or people racked up in poverty and all of those of us it's a spectrum of human experience, right?
Yes.
So that's the way I see it. And each of us gets to be on this journey. Now, if we have the freedom to be entrepreneurs, and we get inspired, we can chart a path. We don't really know, you know, where we'll end up. I mean, the destination, and maybe they say that those that are super successful, they know their destination. I don't know if I buy that, but for me, it's like, that's okay. I can be happy during the journey. That's
Yes.
really what matters to me, is to be happy during the journey.
Yep.
And my happiness comes from overcoming challenges, solving problems from my clients, innovating, making the time go by in a kind of a Zen type of state of deep involvement, even if it's solving a problem that tech support could probably fix in 10 minutes. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's still a challenge. And for the most part, I enjoy. Sometimes I hate them, but for the most part, it comes with the territory. So that's, I think, the one thing I wanted to pass along, though, is that you have to kind of question your beliefs at these points of inflection, and considering escalating the commitment is a point of inflection as an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
Just like seeking investors or hiring staff, You look at that and you go, wow, am I a good enough leader to be able to keep a payroll going of, 5, 10, 30, 70,000 bucks a month? You know, my little brother set up a wholesale nursery down in Southern California, and his payroll is 70 grand every 2 weeks, whether it
Really?
rains or shines. And if they're in a drought, the business is in a drought and they all sweat it. And he doesn't want to let anybody go because he's going to need them and he loves them all. You know, myself, on the other hand, I just don't want people working for me too hard.
Me too.
It's too time consuming. So
Yeah,
everybody gets their own way of dealing with that commitment to their business, right?
yeah,
Sometimes you have to escalate, sometimes you have to step back.
yeah. And then there's the whole thing that we ain't getting any younger. And where are we financially? Could we retire? So, I faced that last year. My
Yeah.
business was kind of winding down, and it was like, okay, it's time. And we often see ending things as a loss as opposed to a completion. And I felt very complete. And I said, I'm done with marketing. I don't have to teach marketing anymore. I don't have to chase money anymore. And so, but then I came up with this idea to do these interviews. And it's just fun to do it, talking to people and learning about what they're doing and just like this, great conversation. So you
Yeah.
have to ask yourself, what's your next step? And you've got some challenges. Your wife is going through some real health challenges right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, uh, I came to another business decision
Yeah.
um, uh, about the same time that I was developing in Virtua. I decided that, well, the avatar thing is just, it's not really going anywhere. I don't think I can really make anything off of it. It's not going to support me. So I need to find a business model doing what I love to do, but with local clients, people that I can actually go have face to face visits with. And so during the pandemic, I started working on that as well. And I came out with the idea of kind of like a video service bureau where I would go out and shoot videos, make videos for clients, businesses, restaurants, hospitality, just wherever I could find a client that was looking for video. And so that was harder than I expected. It took more resources because of the marketing side of it, I discovered that there was a couple dozen videographers or video businesses in my area to compete with. So it was very competitive. And I didn't really quite have a handle on the niche that I could serve.
Right.
So I've been kind of bouncing around with that. But then about the first of this year, maybe March, April, like that, I started going back to something I had loved doing before the pandemic, and that was setting up live streaming videos. And we had been doing that with another guy. I was working with him as a cameraman, and we were live streaming music events, open mic night at a pub locally. And I thought, well, I was pretty good at that. Let me try to do it on my own. So I got started doing that with brand new modern equipment. In April or May. And so now I invested in my own gear, and I can actually do a 5 camera live shoot in real time by myself
Wow.
and not have other cameramen or anything. It's all done with wireless equipment, so I can go around and I can adjust the cameras during the stream,
And who are
get
you
close ups, moving it around and stuff
who are
like
you
that.
filming for that? For things like that?
Well, I'm going to let you in on a little secret here, the niche that I found. I mean,
Yes.
I'm still doing the musicians, and they're a lot of fun. They don't
Yeah.
have much to pay, but the niche that I found is the funeral industry.
No kidding.
And the description of the service is called remote attendance. So a family who has maybe relatives and friends of the family and whatnot, say in a faraway country, can actually share the funeral event or the celebration of life or the memorial service or whatever with their family in real time all around the world.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And so I've done a few of them now, and there isn't much competition in my market for it. Um, and it pays pretty well, and I don't have to worry about lip sync. No, I'm kidding.
You could. It's funny. You can turn anything into comedy, can't you? All of a sudden, the person rises from the grave, and it looks like him, and he talks to you. You could do that, but yeah,
Well,
that would.
maybe someday I'll be able to have, avatars of those that pass away, and we
Yeah.
can set up this experience where, the loved ones can actually interact with the avatar of their loved one, from a database of his life or his or her life. I mean,
Yes.
who knows where this stuff is going? And that's one of the reasons that inspired me back in the '90s to do this. Is that I just saw a path forward that of a future where computer generated avatars, humans, cartoon characters, whatever, it was going to fill a lot of time and space in the future. So
Did you see the movie Ready Player One?
I don't think I saw that one. I'm familiar with Ready Player Me, which is the software,
Well, it was a book
the video
originally,
game.
and then it was made into a movie. I've seen it 3 times, so it just blew
Yeah,
my mind.
yeah,
And it's sort of a semi-dystopian future, not too far in the future, but it's kind of so. But everybody spends their life in a virtual world that really looks like the real world. It's like you're really, really there. Really well plotted. I think it's a Spielberg movie. It's really well done. But
well, yeah,
I have friends, a couple, and uh, the guy, Patrick, is my best friend, and his wife is a musician. And over the pandemic, they said, well, our money is drying up. We can't do shows. And they said, well, could we do live streaming?
hmm
And now they're on their 257th live stream, something like that. And they make money from it. They get because you put up the tip jar through YouTube, however they do it, and
yeah,
they ask for money and they don't make it obnoxious. But people that are real fans of the band love to listen to them. They chip in $5 or $10, and they were making as much doing that as they were with their live shows. So now they do live shows that they're paid for and also live stream. And so, they've gotten a bigger following and a following all over the world
right,
instead of
right.
just in Los Angeles. So, yeah, the potential for live stuff is pretty interesting.
Yeah, well, a lot of times with musicians, the tech, I can provide the technology, but for them to, to do that initial investment, it may take a year to build a following, doing it every week. So that's 52 times, $200, let's say $300, so
Yeah.
kind of a big bite for them. So they end up trying to do it themselves, but they're musicians. They're not AV guys.
Yeah.
On the
Well,
other
these people,
hand,
they figured it out themselves and
right.
got, you know, I guess they had some help, but they don't have any big overhead. They've got the equipment. They just do it,
Sure.
turn on the camera, and they're all set.
Yeah. On the other hand, I have a client here in my home in Carson City that has a real nice restaurant, upscale restaurant with a showroom. And it's a Nashville based theme. And what he does is he contracts with Nashville performers to come out to Carson City here and perform on his stage.
Wow.
And we're working on a plan now to where we can actually use his stage, put some fixed cameras in there, and live stream to his own website, and then do like a Nashville based singer songwriter type website, right? With a pay gate on it.
Yeah.
So it could be free or pay on demand, and you can watch live or you can watch video on demand. So he'll have to make some more investments to really get that thing off the ground, but that's got that same type of potential of remote attendance. If you
Yeah.
can sell seats to a concert and you can attend wherever you are, you know, you're going to make some money.
Yeah. Especially if
Concert,
the video quality is good.
yeah, the video quality has to be superior. And you could also do it with classes, educational materials, trainings. You know, we were talking to the warehouse industry. This area has got a big warehouse industry, distribution centers all over. But in a distribution center, truck drivers may end up out at the loading dock. Your admin guys are in the office in the front, and the two never see or talk to each other hardly, right? Maybe a guy
Right.
on a forklift or a golf cart's running back and forth. But we can actually put big screen TVs at both of these locations now and do presentations, live presentations that everybody can sit in on and participate. And they can be developed either by, by script or just meetings with the head honcho in front of a camera, however they, whatever goal they want to set, we can
Yeah.
help them get there. So there's a lot of opportunity for it.
Yeah.
Again, having the freedom. The thing that I'm running into now is that I've got this situation here at home that where my freedom is being kind of limited, let's say. I don't want to say lost because I'm an optimistic fellow, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, my wife has got Parkinson's and is starting to move into this dementia stage where she requires somebody around 24/7.
Oh, wow.
So, looking at getting out away from my home office to go out into the field or whatever gets harder and harder for me. And so it's a challenge that I didn't expect and that I really haven't totally resolved, other than I really have to, go, okay, well, Gary, what's your priorities? My priority is Sue.
Yeah.
I love doing the video. I love serving my clients, but my priority is my wife. And so, you know, it's kind of like, well,
Yeah. So it's a new challenge. I mean, you faced a lot of challenges. We've all faced challenges. And you get to a point where it's working, 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 and then it's not working. You're not getting the response, or you have accessibility and all of a sudden you don't, or you have to take care of something. And, you've been very resourceful, to say the least. I mean, technically, you're so way beyond most people. I've impressed people because I learned how to do websites in a week. You know, I
yeah.
I read a book and I learned how to do it. And I did a lot of websites. And I created a mailing list. None of these things were nearly as hard as what you're talking about. I mean, investing in this gigantic computer to do these avatar things, yeah, that wouldn't even occur to me.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
so the question is for entrepreneurs is how do we keep moving forward the next natural step? For me, it was a step back finally. I'm not going to live forever. I can live off my retirement. And so the thing is what's the next? And it doesn't necessarily have to be bigger. It doesn't have to be more money, but it has to be the next natural step, right? And
Well, Robert, when we first got together many years ago, and I don't say many years ago, I think around 2004, 2005, somewhere right around in there,
well,
I
that was 20
was,
years ago.
it was 20 years ago. I was
Yeah.
looking at moving out of Lake Tahoe. I was splitting up with my wife. Um, Things were a mess. And you introduced me to an author by the name of Byron Katie.
Yes.
And so from that point on, I studied Byron Katie's writings or videos or audios, and learned a lot about how to be present in the world during this journey. I guess that's what I would call it anyway. Um, it,
Yeah.
to improve the quality of my journey, and to improve the quality of the journey, I believe I had to alleviate suffering, mental and emotional suffering that was racking me and clouding my thinking and just keeping me stuck. And so that being stuck was probably the biggest challenge I ever had to overcome. And with Katie's methods of inquiry, where we question our beliefs to see if they're true or not, if we really should be believing them or if we should recognize them as being false. Um, Once I recognized that I was operating under these false beliefs, I kind of got some of that freedom back. And I find that every time I have one of these challenges where I get emotionally stuck, or bogged down and can't see straight or feel like I'm suffering, I always turn back to that method that Katie teaches. And
Yeah.
not only is it accessible to me, but it's accessible to hundreds of thousands of people all around the world now that she's taught.
Yeah. If
And
people that are
super
watching this
valuable.
don't know, she wrote a book called, excuse me, she wrote a book called Loving What Is. And
Yeah,
I read that in 2003, and it was a game changer for me too.
yeah, yeah,
Because, it was, for me, it was all about getting unstuck.
yeah,
Because what sticks us are thoughts, limiting thoughts. I can't do this. This is hard. I'm not able. And they're things that have been conditioned into us through no fault of our own through our lives. But then you start looking at these thoughts and you realize they're nonsense. And
they
then
don't feel
you,
like nonsense sometimes. They feel
no, they
like
don't.
it's so darn
Yeah.
valid it's going to crush you. But
You
as
start
you do
inquiring
inquiry, yeah,
and you discover, well, if I couldn't have that thought, if I woke up in the morning and that thought couldn't pass through my brain,
yeah,
what would be possible for me? And you see, anything would be possible.
yeah,
And so we start to create a different kind of reality, a different kind of possibility for our lives. So we come up with an idea, and it's not crushed down by our self uh, criticizing voice, and it's just like, well, that's an
yeah,
interesting idea. Let's just explore that. So,
yeah,
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 I'm glad to hear that. I really took that because I was really frustrated in working with clients who were stuck. And I was looking
yeah,
for something for years that could help people. And I'm really glad to hear that me sharing about that made a difference with you. It did with a lot of people because I wrote about it. I did a class or two on it. I really promoted it. I wasn't making any much money from that, but it was like this is something really, really good. And you didn't have to have some belief system or faith or any nonsense like that, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So people that are interested in following up on that can go to the website called thework.com. And it doesn't really cost much. People can pay to go to workshops. Um, but if you're a struggling entrepreneur and you just need to talk to somebody and learn this, I'd recommend going out and buying Loving What Is to start with and go to their website and they'll teach you. Basically starts out by writing it down, what these stressful thoughts are, writing them down on paper, and then using a 4-question method to go through them. And then what she calls the turnaround, where you find a belief that may be as true or truer than your original stressful thoughts. So, not too complicated, and most anybody seems to be able to do it. Just have to kind of be in a meditative kind of approach,
Yeah,
calming your mind down to start,
yeah, yeah. I did it a lot. Now it's just integrated into my life.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not uh, things aren't. I just don't get stuck. I attended your school. I don't know if you attended the 10-day
Oh, no, I
school.
never did. Yeah,
Well, that was a blast. It was
I
fun.
bet. I bet. The other thing about Katie is that there are some really philosophical nuggets
Oh
that
yeah,
she also shares, and they're platitudes when I say them, but when you learn them for yourself, it's like, oh yeah, baby, like uh, never argue with reality, you only lose if you argue with reality. No stressful thoughts are true.
yes.
Um,
She has
you
a little
know,
booklet of wise sayings. Do you have
yeah,
that?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a fantastic little book.
And you can get involved with watching her help others by her YouTube videos.
Yeah,
And a lot of times she may be talking about, some person's problem with a spouse or a mate. But you watch it and you go, well, wait a second. We're not talking about that spouse or mate. We're talking about how to find freedom from your false beliefs.
Yeah.
So it's easy to make connections. So anyway, I I appreciate what you did so much. Even now with what's happening here, as hard as it is, if I were to argue with the reality of what's going on, my wife and I would both be suffering.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
how would I help her without a clear mind,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, it would
So
be bad.
how would I see what the priority is if I was so stuck in thinking that oh, the future is going to be terrible, I'll never work again, I have to sacrifice everything for my wife, blah blah blah, looking at all these ways that I could imagine the future, because that's what a lot of people do. They just sit there and they imagine up a future, they conjure a future, and then go, oh no, no. you it's
They
like,
conjure a negative future, a disastrous future.
yeah,
What's the word? Catastrophize. We
yeah, there you
catastrophize.
go. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, this
And
will happen. This is how it will go. These days, I go. I don't know how it will go. Let's see. Let's be present to whatever is and see what we can do.
and that
Yeah.
particular learning, right, that lesson is the same lesson I use. Oh, I'm going to try to shoot live stream video at funerals.
Yeah.
I don't know how it's going to go. I'm just going to start doing it.
Yeah.
I know what to do. I know how to make appointments. I know how to talk to the loved ones. I know how to run the cameras. I know how to do post production. I know how to stream. I don't know where it's all going to go, but I'm open to it and I do it. And then I find out, oh, yeah, 200 people from India were on the stream live.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
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 There's a lot of yeah. The you should be in Silicon Valley. There's a zillion. My wife is South Asian. She's from Nepal.
Oh, all right.
And we
Nice.
just went to a wedding, and I tell you, families are really big there, really big. There's
Yeah.
the cousin and the uncle and and everybody gets together. Very, very strong family ties. So
Sure.
that's
I
that's a
guess
good market.
I could have been doing this during COVID, I suppose, but I wasn't doing that. I was helping autistic kids during COVID, okay?
Yeah,
So that's behind me now. I could start it up. I could actually start up my autistic program in the blink of an eye, just with filling out a subscription form to get my practice open again. The avatars are all here. I could start dropping social media marketing into the stream of consciousness, see if I could get moms and stuff. But I kind of move on once I find that things aren't really, that relevant anymore. I go, well, I'm not going to escalate my commitment in that particular area. I'm going to place my
yeah,
interests elsewhere and see what I can do, depending on the amount of investments that's required. You know, and I now I compare the what the return on investment, right? How much I have
yeah.
to spend in terms of money and time versus the return. So I'm trying to be a better entrepreneur there and look at all the things that I can do on my list. Well, which one's actually going to be the most productive, maybe from a financial standpoint, or gathering clients, or which one's going to be the hardest to
Yeah.
open a new market for me, that type of thing.
Well, I trust that you're going to keep moving forward courageously with an open
That's
mind.
me.
And yeah, this is why I love speaking to self-employed professionals because they're a particular breed. And if they've been at it for a long time and had a lot of successes, they've come to this place where they're I don't know, it's a special kind of person that does things on their own, creates things on their own, trusts themselves to move forward and try new things. Try something that doesn't work, yeah, no big deal. You try something else. Anyway, it's really been fun talking to you today, Gary. And
Thank you, Robert.
I wish you well on your travels, and I hope it works out well with your wife. I know that's that's a very difficult journey as well.
Well, it's been a privilege and a pleasure, my friend, to be with you today. And we created some good memories here just visiting. And I hope that what we shared with you today is valuable to others down the road. And people can feel free to contact me if they like, if they
We'll have
want
the
to
contact
extend this.
information below the video. So yeah,
Sure, sure. But thank you for your well wishes. And who knows where life's going to take me. I'm just going to keep trucking on as best I possibly can. And hopefully we'll see you again soon.
thanks, Gary. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Robert. Take care.